After long, hard consideration, your mother and I have decided it's time to move on and leave the state of California permanently, and we're going to go to Florida. We're going to sell this house.
What? What?
Yeah,
Is this a joke?
it's not a joke at all.
Dude, full time. No LA time.
Full time. We already have the place. It's a done deal.
Hey, money actors. So with all these people leaving, just like Stallone, he's just one of the latest people leaving California, I decided I needed to take a look again because one of the biggest producer hacks is finding money in the current budget that you have. And I'm constantly looking at this and reevaluating it because there's always something that can be done. I wanted to show you guys because I think a lot of people would be interested in what's called the OODA diagram or the OODA loop. And this is basically like a way to use what you would typically do is like a pro and cons list if you're trying to decide something, but it helps you kind of think through something to then take action on it instead of really mulling it over for a long time. And I know a lot of people are thinking about moving from California, and I thought this would be helpful. And I can show you exactly what my process is to come up with that. And I'm actually going to show you in future videos how I get through all of this and what I ultimately end up deciding. So I think that could be kind of fun. So stay tuned for those future episodes that are coming. But first, let's take a look at what the OODA loop is, which is observe, orient, decide, and act. And I grabbed this image off of, I think it was a bank. So that's why it talks about banks. But we're not going to go through those exact examples. But we can go through my exact examples, which is decision to leave California. So what is my problem? Well, I'm tired of moving all of our stuff constantly, but may have to again, regardless whether we're staying in California or not. And the reason is our lease is up again, and we may need to leave anyway. And we were planning on buying when we moved to California. We just ended up moving here at exactly the time when everything went parabolic. And so it was like we were bidding 50,000 over, 100,000 over, 150,000 over, and weren't even in the conversation. So we just, after 3 months of looking, just decided to rent. And so that's why we're looking to move. And the costs in California for personal and owning a business is extremely high, highest in the country. And so, yeah, there's another good reason to leave. Of course, that's that producer technique of finding money, if you can find a better place. The problem is California has got the perfect weather. There's a reason it's expensive. It doesn't have to be taxed as insanely because it used to be the most powerful state in the country. And I think it's going to be eclipsed by Texas here pretty soon because everybody's leaving. It's a horrible business environment, having gone through it recently myself. And, yes, the problem is worth solving as far as that question is concerned. So observe is taken care of. Orient, we'll skip some of these questions, and really the risks here. And for me, the biggest risk is we just moved my oldest son from Canada down to California just 2 years ago. And to move again, he's finishing up his sophomore year this year to have 2 more years left in high school and move him again. I did it when I was in high school. We moved my senior year, and I remember how much that was not fun. Now, I did have a long history with my friends at that point where Cameron's just, he's only had 2 years with these kids. He's just now really starting to make connections. So that's what makes it really hard. So here's what helped me through this decision-making process. I put in a non-negotiable because I think that helps. It's not here, but for me, that helps. Like, what is it that wherever we move, this is what I have to have. If it doesn't have that, I can eliminate it off the list. It just helps eliminate, process of elimination. So my non-negotiable is if we're going to move to buy a place. And if we're going to buy a place, it needs to be, a decent place that we love, in a decent place, in a decent area. And it's not insanely constricted like it is here in California. And so the reason I want to buy when we move is because I don't want to move again. That was kind of up here on that observe because we're constantly moving and I'm so tired of it. That's part of the VFX business, of course. And I prefer a warmer weather state. Having just left Canada, got sick of the rain, 10 years of it. So I'm happy to be in palm trees again. So if we can pick somewhere in the south, that would be great. It wasn't necessarily a make or break theme, but it was high on the list of preferred. Look at a cost analysis for each location. So once I've kind of picked out which places, then I break it down into costs. And then it's that process of elimination again that we go through. And then if I can't eliminate it, we're actually going to visit that location if we haven't been there and just don't know the vibe. And so then we will go to act, and that's taking all that decision-making process and then actually moving forward with it. So act is, so if we like it, when do we act? And that comes into play is if we just feel like we can't move him, then what we'll do is stick around for another 2 years and then maybe move. But who knows what situation will arise. A lot can happen in 2 years, but maybe it's right away. Maybe when we get there, they have like a great animation program in the high school or something. He likes it there. Then, of course, that makes it an easy decision to move if we all like the vibe. So let's go back to the decide process where I'm at currently, and maybe this can help you decide if you're looking to move. So, and you may also have maybe work constraints. You can't move because you're not allowed to work from home remotely or whatever. And I'm in that position now where I'm able to. So basically I've deleted all of my personal information. So I do have a lot of financials in here, my expenses, my incomes, money after expenses and all that I use for other things. So this is the list I have. So I've just got my current expenses, and then I'm going to compare it to these places that I'm considering moving. Now, I did put Oregon and Washington here, and the reason I did is because we have family up there. Don't necessarily want to get back to the rain again, but we do have family there. We like it there. Cameron would, of course, have an easier time moving there because of family, so it wouldn't make that move, that's a big plus if we move him right away before he finishes high school. And then we looked at Puerto Rico, and it's amazing. It's the only place that Americans can escape the federal income tax. Literally, you would pay, if you've got a business that you can move there, you'll pay 4% tax, and that's it. Of course, you do have to pay yourself an income, and that income can be like 50 grand a year, and then you'll pay 30% on that as far as Puerto Rican tax. But that's it. And so it's a huge tax benefit for Americans. The problem is all the big Bitcoiners that have made a ton of money in Bitcoin have moved there and just jacked all the prices up. So I did eliminate this one just because of that. Now, if I was blown up with millions and millions, maybe it would make sense. But at this point in this juncture, it doesn't make sense for me. Florida, of course, has that beautiful weather. There's some great places on the western coast because I was looking, okay, I don't want to be like in the direct line of fire from a hurricane. But unfortunately, there's just too many things about Florida that I just don't think would work out for us. Flooding and the insurance for the housing is just too costly, even though you can buy a house for really cheap there. There's a reason you can buy a house really cheap there. Even the pools are covered in these glass domes because of the bugs, alligators. So we eliminated Florida. Texas, this was really interesting. Decent weather. Humidity kind of sucks, especially in the Houston area, but great prices of housing, no income tax. We could probably save about 50 grand a year before we even talk about taxes. So that's a pretty good deal. And we'd be able to own a home with a huge pool in the backyard. So this one's a tough one to eliminate. Anyway, go through all the prices. You can find all this stuff online, just cruising around on, either Craigslist or Zillow or whatever it may be to try to look at different properties for housing and just look on the internet for costs for as far as like utilities and stuff like that. So you can do an exact comparison of what your costs are going to be. And that's why I was able to look at Texas and go, dang, we'd be able to save like almost 50 grand before taxes. And that's going to be another chunk of money. So this is really enticing. Good weather other than the humidity. So then you do a pros and cons list from here, at least I did. And this is where it helped me kind of go through the elimination process. And you can see where right here, my non-negotiable was move only to buy a house. I had to eliminate Oregon and Washington just because that was my non-negotiable. I was buying a house and they're pretty expensive there still. Unfortunately, maybe it'll come down, but we'll have to see. But right now, it's still pretty expensive. We may as well stay here in California. In Florida, as I mentioned, flooding and all that stuff, it's just a hassle. So that was eliminated. Puerto Rico, I mentioned, because of the costs that have gone up so much because of all the Bitcoiners that moved there. So, one of these days when I'm in the multi-millions, then maybe I'll make the move to Puerto Rico. But Texas cannot be eliminated. So that's where I put all these things like, if I decide to act, here's what I've got to do to move forward quickly if we decide to act quickly. But coming back here, we've decided in a week's time, we are flying out. A week from today, we are going to be flying out to Texas. I've only visited Austin I wasn't crazy about it. It wasn't terrible, but I wasn't like, wow, this is an amazing place. I visited there in 2019. Too many Californians go straight there. I think it's gotten too crowded. The prices of houses have gone way up because of that. So I'm looking at more like San Antonio or Houston. Dallas was interesting, but I looked online. I just didn't see anything special about it as far as like watching any YouTube videos. Where Houston and San Antonio, I was like, oh, that looks fun to visit. That looks cool. That looks cool. So I eliminated Dallas. It also has snow in Dallas at times. So San Antonio to me is probably the most interesting. It's not next to the ocean or the Gulf of Mexico, which helps because now you don't have the hurricane problem, which can happen in Houston. But if you're far enough inland in Houston, it's not like being in Florida. So, it does have hailstorms. I mean, California has massive earthquakes that can destroy everything. So, a lot of people, when I would say, oh, we're looking at Florida maybe, which we're not now, but oh, all the crazy people there, it's like there's not crazy people in California. I mean, California is even worse. So I just laugh at that kind of stuff as if California's don't stink. I won't say the bad word here, but anyway, Texas is a hard one to eliminate. So we're going to go out a week from now. I'm excited to check it out. And what we'll do here is make this a series of let's check out Texas. And so we'll do a little vlog checking it out, what we like, what we dislike about it, and then we'll come to our ultimate decision. So it'll be a little mini series for you. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.